Well, hello and welcome back to our Advent devotional series. As we are walking through the Advent season, we are looking at some of these famous Christmas passages. And so today we're going to finish up looking at Micah chapter 5, this famous prophecy about where Jesus would be born, which of course is in the little town of Bethlehem. And so, what we want to do is we want to dive in and not just use it as sort of a proof text to say, oh, see, look, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. That's great. But this beautiful passage actually tells us about the nature of who Jesus is. Because Jesus, he came as a baby, yes, but he also came as a king. And so, what does the kingship of Jesus look like? Let's dive into Micah 5. A few different things. Number one, Jesus is an ancient future king. Jesus is an ancient future king. Look at what it says here in Micah 5, starting in verse 2. It says, "From you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days." And so, on the one hand, this is someone who is coming. And even though Jesus has come the first time, we know that he's coming again. And so, this is a king who is coming, but his coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. And so Jesus is a ancient king who is a future king. John chapter 1, it says that Jesus was in the beginning with God. And Revelation 19, it tells us that Jesus is the King of kings and Lord of lords. And so Jesus is a king who is ancient, who is there in the beginning, who created all things, and yet he's a future king who is coming to rule and to reign and to make all things right. Number two, Jesus is an unlikely king. And we get this from the place that he was born, Bethlehem. Bethlehem is a household name. It's the destination of pilgrimages for people around the world. It's the lyric in countless songs that we sing around Christmas time. But Bethlehem back in the day was something that was written off. It was a flyover town. It was the kind of town where, when you're on a road trip and you kind of aren't looking at your map, and then all of a sudden you end up in a town and it's farther along than you thought it was, and you're like, wait, I thought that we were passing by such and such. And then you realize, oh, we did. Oh, I don't even remember what it was. That's what Bethlehem is. Bethlehem is a town like that. And so I think the closest equivalent would be something like Washougal, where we are. And so imagine taking Washougal and inserting it into some of these songs. Oh, little town of Washougal, how still we see thee lie. That would be weird, wouldn't it? That's what Bethlehem is. If people from ancient Bethlehem heard some of the Christmas songs that we sing, they would be befuddled by it. They'd be confused by it. But what this shows us is that Jesus is an unlikely king because he comes from an unlikely place. He was not born in a palace. He wasn't born to royalty. He was born in the tiny town of Bethlehem. And Bethlehem is significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's significant because Bethlehem is the place where King David was born as well. And so it affixes the rule of Jesus into the line of David. And number two, the word Bethlehem means house of bread. And so it reminds us, even Jesus' birthplace reminds us that he is the bread of life who came into the world so that we could take him, that we could partake of him, and that is where we find true satisfaction for all of our deepest longings. Advent is a season of longing, and we recognize, even by where Jesus was born, that our longings are ultimately fulfilled in him. And then lastly, it says that Jesus is a shepherd king. Look at what it says here, starting in verse 4. It says, "He shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall dwell secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be their peace." What a beautiful promise of what Jesus does for us. And so, in addition to this being another connection to David, who was also a shepherd king, it tells us about who Jesus is. Now, A shepherd is the boss of the sheep. Don't get me wrong. The sheep pen is not a democracy. They're not voting on budget plans in the sheep pen. But a shepherd is so much more. A shepherd, number one, cares for the sheep. He provides for them. He takes care of them. He gives them food. He gives them shelter. He lives with the sheep. He's always there with them. He doesn't leave them unattended because they can't be unattended because I hate to break it to you and me, I guess, but sheep are not all that smart. And so I don't know what that means when the Bible calls us sheep. But number three, a shepherd helps the sheep. Sheep are notoriously dumb. And so if there is a sheep that is in a flock with other sheep, if one sheep starts running, the only defense mechanism that sheep have are running. And so all they can do, they don't have claws, they don't have teeth, they don't have poison, they don't have bright colors, they can't scare anybody, they can't do anything. If a sheep starts running, all of the other sheep will instinctively start running, even if that sheep is not running from anything in particular. And so an entire flock of sheep can run off of a cliff, having literally no idea why they were running in the first place. And so they need a shepherd who will help the sheep. A shepherd who will go off, like it says of Jesus, if a shepherd has 100 sheep and one of them goes away, won't he leave the 99 who are secure already to go chase after the one? So maybe you're that one. Maybe you're that sheep that needs help. And Jesus is chasing you down. Jesus is coming after you. He is caring for you. He is with you. His presence is with you, and he helps you. And lastly, a shepherd protects the sheep. What a shepherd would do would be at the entrance of the sheep pen. So you have a kind of round, I'm envisioning it as round, maybe it's octagonal. You have a sheep pen where all the sheep are living. And at night, when the sheep are sleeping, the shepherd would lay down in front of the entrance to the sheep pen. And he would do that because if a wolf, if a bear, another predator, thieves came to try to harm the sheep or take the sheep or kill the sheep, the shepherd was there. And so it's like the shepherd is saying, to get to them, you're going to have to go through me. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Jesus says in John chapter 10, it says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." And that is what Jesus did for us. Jesus laid down his life for us. He didn't just lay down at the entrance to protect us. He laid down and allowed himself to be killed by those predators, by the thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus laid down his life and gave it up so that you could be called into his fold, so that you could hear his voice, so that you could know his voice, and so that he could be your good shepherd. We'll see you next.